This is the Rahal Company store where the miners shopped at, I guess. Oh, my soul to the company store.
That's how they was done. They was loaded in those cars with shovels. I decided to go out and take me a snack, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Now, a little history about the mines. It was an actual operating coal mines at one time. They produced the coal, and they sold it to people to heat their homes with. They never was on the big markets or companies. It was all done privately and gone by the Phillips family here. Now they still have some descendants that works here. They rebuild mining equipment over next to them big buildings off of 77 when you get off of exit 44, and big long buildings down through there. It says Phillips Global. That's part of their family that used to own this mines. And they still have some coal mines, but mainly they rebuild mining equipment. Now the seam of coal they mined in here was the soil seam, and you folks over there, I'll show you, that's the coal right there underneath. You folks up here, the coal goes around there underneath that rock. And over here, you'll see it over here. And over around through there. Now it's a little shorter over here because we've added some gravel and things to help build it up so we wouldn't be standing or walking in the mud and water. But the seam only averages about 38 to maybe 40 inches tall. So it wasn't a real tall seam of coal. It's what we call a low seam. And they didn't have the support systems that we have today, so they couldn't cut it out wide. They kept it at about 8 feet wide is all it was, and the 40 inches tall at most of the time. Now sometimes a rock would fall out and then make a higher form, but most of it was a real low place. And so they mined here till 1910. They shut it down. The city of Beckley approached the family about buying the mines to make a little park out of it and make the exhibition mines. So the family sold it to them. And when they did, the Beckley engineers come in here looking around. They said, "We've got a lot of work to get done and get in here because there's nobody going to pay good money to crawl around on their hands and knees to look at a coal mine." So they brought their engineers in and got some steam drills and different things back in the old days there to drill it out. There never was any mining equipment in here until they started getting some donations of mining equipment. So they done it by hand and they pushed it out on carts and different things, and all that front parking lot and all where that big building, the company store and all that's built, was filled in with the material that was dug out of here. And so we got busy there, and it took them a few years. So in 1962, they opened up for their first tour underground, and we've been going ever since. Now, I think the year of COVID, they kind of slowed down. I wasn't working here then, but they slowed down there and then picked back up after everybody was turned loose. Now, I took my first tour to this coal mines when I was 6 years old, and that was in 1967. So I'm about to tell my age. But anyway, my daddy was a coal miner, and he brought me through here thinking that I would probably change my mind about the coal mining. It didn't bother me a bit. I started when I got out of high school in 1975, and I just retired in December of 22. Wow. And that gave me 47 and a half years of working underground. So coal mine's been pretty good for me. All right, a few little things here to go over. One of them is the old canaries that the coal miners used to carry in with them. And they would carry them in cages like this. Now the canary, everybody thought it would help him find the methane gas. It does not. Methane gas underground, you can't see it, taste it, smell it. Most of the time you don't know it's there until it fires up on you. You light a match and phew, there you go. But anyway, he would help us find low oxygen. You have to have at least 18 to 21% of oxygen in the area where you're at to survive. Your brain starts shutting down when it gets below the 18%. So his little brain was smaller than ours, and his lungs. So he would start having an effect of that before we did. So we carried him in, we set him down, and we watched him closely because we didn't want to lose our friend because he was our safety margin. So when he started laying around in the cage like ours is, now ours is wood, he's not a real one. He looks like he's down Myrtle Beach there, stretched out in the sun, or one of them beaches down south. Anyway, he would lay down like that, and we knew it was time to get back out of that area because there wasn't enough oxygen for us to survive or him. So we grabbed him up, got back out, and if there wasn't another place we could work that was safe, we had to try to push air up into that area where we was working at. And the only way back in the old days was either bellows. You have old bellows out there that you could push up and down, and they usually hired some teenage boys to stay out there and pump them up and down to help air keep in the coal mines. Or if they had cut out or punched out another area in the mines, they would go out there and build a big fire. And that fire would draft. It would pull air through the coal mines. So that's the way they ventilated their mines back then. Nowadays, we have big fan systems that sits outside. If you ever go drive by mines, you hear something like a jet engine. That's that big fan turning, and it's pumping a lot of air in our coal mines for us now. So we quit using these, retired them, and started using some different things. And this is one of the items we went to. Now this will find your methane gas and your low oxygen. So it serves two purposes. First of all, the methane gas, we didn't know how to take care of it or how to look for it. So we had a guy come through the coal mines. He would strike a match ever so often and see if he could burn it out if there was any gas in that area. We called him the fire boss. And you see a little sign right there. I was the fire boss today. Now I didn't find any methane gas. As you can tell, I still got hair on my arms and my beards are okay. So we didn't find no methane gas today. All right. And then we started using this. This is a little more safer. It's called a flame safety lamp. It's got little filters down in this top here, and you would light that light up, and if it gets any brighter, taller, or a bright orange, that meant you had methane in that area. Methane is lighter than air, so it floats along the top. So you would take your little safety lamp and drag it across the top like that. And like I said, if that got any taller and started burning a bright orange, that meant there was methane in that area. And also this helps you find the low oxygen. We call it black damp. You find it low in the coal mines. So you would hook this hook. That's what it's designed for, on your pants there or in your belt loop. And you would take that along, and every so often you look and make sure it is burning, because if it's not burning, you don't have enough oxygen. So that's the one of the new safest ways that we found to keep us safe underground. I carried one of these up until 1978, and then we started using little instruments like this. It's just called a spotter, and that's what helps find the methane gas. It's got this little breather back here, and it pulls the air in, and it separates. It's got little sensors in there, so it picks up methane gas your low oxygen, and your hydrogen gas and stuff, whatever you got under. Got your little start button, you push that there, and this all lights up and tells you what you're breathing and what the percentage that you got in there. So that's what we use nowadays. This is a little outdated, but it's similar to what we use. All right, underground, of course, you had to have lights. The first type of lights that they would use was candles, or they used the old oil lamps that had the globes on them. You would light the wick up and hook them on the timbers, and the candles had little candle holders on the timbers. And you had this on your hat. It's called the teapot light. So you would fill it up with your lamp oil or coal oil there, soaked up into a wick, and this little hook was designed to sit on your hat. So it would sit there on your hat and work. Now, it won't sit on mine very long. It'll fall off because my hat's not designed for that. The older coal miner hats, the first ones, was cloth like a baseball cap. Had a metal plate on it, and it had a little tiny hole for that to hook down in. And your bill was made out of leather, and it was usually about a 1/4 inch thick. So it would sit there on your hat, and you would work with that. Then we come up with a carbide light. Anybody ever seen one of these demonstrators?
Yep.
Used one before? You own one?
No.
We got them for sale out there.
Oh, my God. They're bright.
If you'd like to buy one. But you take calcium carbide, which is a little chemical, and then you add water to that, and it makes a settling gas like you'd use in a cutting torch. So we're going to make a little of that and try to get him lit up for you. You got your calcium carbide in the bottom tank, and you add a little water to that. You'll see that gas start forming out there in a minute. That's the acetylene. And it comes out this little valve right here, and I've got a striker. I'm going to try to light up some of that for you. And that's what you would use for a light.
Wow.
It'll settle down there in a minute.
How long does that last?
Same type of little hook right here, and it hooked on your hat. This will burn for about 4 hours before you had to put more carbide and water in it. And that was the next light we used was a light like that was on that hat. It's got a big cable and a battery and a cord and everything. And then after that, we started using lights like I've got. It's LED, runs off a battery, you charge it up. It'll burn for about 72 hours before you have to charge it up again. Now this type of light, if you're underground by yourself, it puts out that kind of light. Most of the time you had somebody with you, but then you have this by yourself. Once your eyes adjusted that, you can see pretty good. Now the next step is no light at all. Everybody ready for that one?
Yeah.
No? Did we hear no?
I
All
heard
right.
a no because I am also saying no.
All right, when I turn the light out, touch your nose with your finger. Now make sure it's your finger touching your nose. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Can you see your hand?
No.
I can't see it either. Now somebody's cameras are on. So. All right. Now we use lights like I've got. And it sees pretty good. You can see a long ways down through there, a long ways up through there. So this is what we use now to see by. Underground, you would not have all the lights that we got in here. These lights were just put in for y'all's enjoyment. You can see what you're looking at when you go around looking at different things. The equipment and your hat light on your hat is what you had to use. Now, if you worked for a coal company and had a tall seam, like about 5.5, 6 foot, you would use cars like this to haul your coal out on. In this mines, they used a flat bottom sled with the sled runners, and then they would have goats or dogs to pull the sled with, because that was all could fit in here. They couldn't fit their mules in here. They had to use the small animals. But these would use mules or horses. You got the little single tree that you hooked your horse up to, and it would pull it out for you. And it was like mostly it was a 2-ton car, and somebody had a 1-ton. And when you loaded your coal up, if you worked for a coal company, each man, when they got hard on the coal company, they got assigned a number like this, and they would stamp it into a piece of metal, a tag like that. You carried it with you, and when you loaded your car, you would throw that in the car, nailed to a board like this, or hook it on the side. That way, when the coal got outside, when they weighed it, they put this number down, and they would put you down for whatever, if it was a ton or 2 ton of coal. That's how you got paid, because they was paying them 20 cents a ton, so you made sure you got all of your tonnage, because that was hard work, and just for 20 cents. But that's how they got paid. When the coal got outside, they would mark your number down and mark you down whatever you loaded.
That cart's worth 20 cents.
That card's worth 20 cents. That one's worth 40 cents.
Well, how long would it take you to fill up this thing here?
It takes about an hour, hour and a half. That's counting your drilling, your shooting, setting your timbers, making sure everything's safe, because you're doing all that by yourself, and loading your cart also. Now, if you had a son that was at least 14 years old, 12, 13, 14, you could bring him to work with you, and he could be your assistant, and he was an apprentice. After 2 years, when he got about 15 years old, he was considered a coal miner. He could come in and work underground by himself in. So usually his job was to drive the team, pull the coal outside while Dad was getting another place ready to shoot and load his coal.
So by shoot, you mean explode? Or
Yeah, powder, dynamite. In this mine's particularly, they used black powder. They didn't use dynamite. They wanted big lumps like this. If they'd used dynamite, it would just make it dust. They used black powder, just shake it loose enough to where they could pick it and shovel it up.
And does that still get cut after it's out of here?
Not for house coal. No, you'd burn that size of coal in your stoves. Yes. Now, if it was going to steel mills, it ground it up into powder. The railroad cars that you see going down the main line, usually on the side of the road, going down the railroad tracks, that's all dust. It's going to a steel mill or a power plant to burn.
And that's not like what would be used in cosmetics and stuff, right?
Using what?
Like cosmetics, sometimes there's things made with charcoal or toothpaste with charcoal.
No.
Different,
no.
right?
They wouldn't. I don't think that was used for that.
So primarily coal now is just used for power generation?
Power and steel. Yes, sir. Some people burn in their homes where it's allowed. Your government regulations have stopped some of that. I think up in New York and above up in there, they kind of stopped that burning coal in their homes. But around here in Kentucky and some parts of Tennessee, people still use it to heat their homes with. Any other questions?
I want.
All right, if you don't have any questions, we've got a couple more exhibits to look at. We'll go around this way and come back down into an area over on the other side of the mines. When you go up through here, everybody listen to country music. Anybody like country music? Brad Paisley from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Well, last year he come in and made a music video under here, and it's called the Medicine Wheel. What he's talking about, if you worked in the coal mines, you got hurt. A lot of them got addicted to opioids, and he says that if the coal mine don't kill you, the medicine will. So he was in here, I think about 8 hours last year, and made his video of his manager team, his videographers, a movie team. There's a bunch of them in here up around the curve here making the video for him. Now, I had insider information. I brought my guitar, but he would not let me play. He did sign it for me, so that's even better. So now my grandkids will probably sell that guitar one of these days. His initial,
Did he dig any coal while he was down here?
I wasn't in here all the time. He may have picked up a lump or two, but and Senator Manchin was with him. Him and Manchin's pretty close buddies, so he was in here all the time with him. So they may have picked up some coal. I'm not sure. He didn't look like he dug any coal. Because the cowboy hat he wore, he had his, I guess his makeup artist she had that cowboy hat wrapped in plastic.
Oh.
And she took it out of plastic, put it on his head, and when he got finished, she'd wrap it back up in plastic. Didn't want that hat to get dirty. All right, we'll ease on around the mountain.
Thank
This area over on this side, it's show you where he would come and dig his coal. You folks over there, you can get on your knees in the seat if you like, stand up, you got a little room over your head, and stretch your legs a little bit. And you folks can slide up this way if you want to look at it this way here. But he would come in and use a pick like this one here, get down on his side, lay down and dig that coal, dig a little ditch out from underneath that coal. And that's called an undercut. That lets that coal fall straight down when he shoots his coal. And then he would have to drill it so he would have his breast auger. Remember, there was no power, no nothing, no electricity underground at that time. And he would take this, put his chest up against here and drill 3 holes, one in the center, one on each side. And he just wanted to bust it up loose enough to where it'd be lump coal in here. He didn't want powder, he wanted it all lump. And so he would use gunpowder in here. And he would tamp that gunpowder in there good and tight. And then he would put the mud and rocks in there and tamp that in there so when he shot it, it wouldn't just shoot back out the hole. It would keep that up in there and it would vibrate and bust that coal loose. And before he shot, he had to warn everybody he was getting ready to put off a shot if there's anybody underground. So he hollered out something. Anybody know what he hollered out?
Fire in the hole.
Fire in the hole 3 times, just as loud as he could. He'd give them about 2 minutes or so to get into a safe area, which meant not in straight shot of the fire when it shoots out. And he would light his fuse and get back around the curve himself and wait till the shot goes off, come in, shovel his coal up, and he'd set timbers to make sure it was safe for him to be in there. And then if any rock fell out, like you see it's fell out in here, they would throw it over to the side and put it over there. He didn't load that coal up because he didn't get paid for that coal. Plus, that rock. If he got any rock in his coal, he had to pay somebody to clean that rock out of his coal because the company didn't want that rock in their coal. And back then, they had guys or young men to stay out there and they would pick that rock out. They called them pickers. They pour that coal out, and they would pick that coal out of that rock out of that coal. Nowadays, we have cleaning plants that separates the coal and the rock. So we put rock in it now anyway. We grind it up all together, and it separates it when it gets outside.
So is there a high risk of when you do, put the gunpowder in the coal of the rock falling and messing?
Yes, yes. Yeah, there's always that likability or ability that it is going to fall out.
Right.
Especially at this rock here. This is shell rock.
Right.
It's a real soft rock. Up above this, where we anchor our bolts into, is sandstone, and it's a real solid rock.
Right.
It holds good.
So when you say they can only dig it 8 feet wide and stuff, they'd come through, obviously a lot more narrow than this.
Oh,
You
yes.
just branch off in certain spots
Yes, sir.
and then go back out to the main chute.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you would have like this, the main highway here, and then you'd have these offshoots. They would be 100 foot long. Back in here, you'd cut these out 100 feet, and then you would cut toward each other. You'd have a guy up there and a guy down there, and you'd be here. So you would drive these up 100 feet. They would be 100 foot between you guys. They would drive theirs up 100 feet, and then you would cut toward each other, and you would drive those together, and that created what we call a pillar or a block, and that helps hold the mountain up, and it's 100 by 100 block of coal. And it also lets the air flow better if you got a complete circuit.
Right.
You got to have it's just like electricity. You got to have a return for our ground.
Right.
So air has to have the same thing. You got to have a return. It's got to have a clear path to make a circulation.
Right.
Is that some type of moss growing on the wall?
Yes, sir. Where the lights are on in here and it's damp and all that, the moss will grow in here. Mushrooms grow in here. Can't eat them, but mushrooms grow in here. We did, back when we first come in the hole, we had some ferns that come up in there. So we do have plant life underground. Any other questions? All right, we'll ease on down to our next stop.
Why can't you eat the mushrooms?
Because these are poisonous type.
What?
Okay, they're no good. They're not. Down in our coal mines in about the mid 30s, early 40s, and then we had electricity come in. So all of our machinery runs off of electricity or battery, one or the other. And so started picking up production then, and started mining more coal. So they paid the coal miner by the hour instead of by the ton. That started in the 30s. All right. Support system. Used to be, all you'd have to do was set a timber here and a timber there and a crossboard like that, called a header. And that was what was holding your mountain up. Now, it didn't do too good of a job sometimes. If that mountain started getting weight on it, it would break those boards or break the timbers and kick them out. And the support wouldn't be so good. So in the 40s, we started experimenting, trying to do different things to help support our top. And we had some engineers to do some studies for us, and we realized we can bolt our top up for us. And what it does when you put a bolt in it, it pulls all them layers of rocks back up, makes them solid. Don't leave them laying in there and cracking and loose. So you would take a machine like this, drill you a hole up in the top, like that right there, and then you would put a bolt in it. It was this type. It's called a conventional bolt. It's just a little steel pin, and it has that little plate on it, and this chuck on the end of it. Now this acts like a toggle bolt. When you tighten this bolt up, this spreads out, and these little grooves dig into that rock up in there, and so it would pull up on the rock. This plate pulls up on it and pulls it back together for you. It makes your layers back to being tight again. So it won't work like that. But over a period of time, the mountain would settle and start pushing down. Well, it would break these off. It'll snap them off, and they'll slip right out of the hole. So here we was with no good support again. So we got back to the drawing board and started doing some more experimenting with different things. And we come up with a glue bolt. And this is what we use today to help hold our mountains up. It's a tube of glue like that. It's a resin with a hardener in it. So you would drill your hole. You stick this up in the hole first. And then you run a bolt up in behind it, and it looks like this. It is a piece of rebar, like it used in concrete, and it's got the head and the same type of plate. So you got your glue up in the hole, you start that up in there, you hear that glue bag bust open, and you start spinning this, rotating it, and it mixes that glue up as you're going up, and it pushes out in our cracks and crevices and glues everything back together for us. Now, you got to be fast with it because that glue sometimes sets up in about 10 seconds. So you're working hard and working fast with it. Because if this bolt don't go all the way to the top like you see these here, if it don't go all the way to the top, it's not good. So it's got to go all the way up against the top. And that glue goes out and glues everything together. You got a row of 4. You move your machine up, put you another row of 4 up. So every 4 foot you have a bolt holding your mountain up for you. And the glue glues everything back together, and the steel here keeps that mountain from shifting. If that mountain shifts, it's going to break. So the bolts help hold it from shifting on us. So that's how we keep our mountain up. That's what we use today. And then we got to keep a check on our mountain. It's the law that we got to keep a check on the mountain above us. So if we're using 6-foot bolt, we got to drill a test hole. Every 100 feet that we travel, we got to drill a test hole. And it's got to be at least 2 to 4 foot past our bolts. So if we're using a 6-foot bolt, we would put drill a 10-foot hole. And I've got one marked for you there with a red X. We mark that, and then you can come in and check it every day. It's required that the man in charge would come in and check those. And then the inspectors come in and run cameras up in there and check it for us. Now, if you got a tape measure on you, you can run that tape measure up through there. And if it gets stuck or caught on anything, that means there's a crack up in there. And then you've got that measurement there. You can see how deep that crack is. Now, if it's above that 6 foot, that means that bolt's no good anymore. We got to come in and put 10-foot bolts up. So that's how we keep a check on our mountain. If it cracks up above that 6 foot, that 6 foot's going to pull everything down with it. So we've got to make sure we're bolted up into solid material at least 2 to 3 foot above us. So coal mine's a lot more safer than it used to be. We have a whole lot less accidents, a whole lot less fatalities. One's too much, but we have a whole lot less than what we used to have. All right, over there you'll see the sign says dinner hole. That's where the man would come in, set his bucket down, and he would come back there and eat his lunch. And hopefully nothing got in his lunch, 2-legged or 4-legged, because it's been known to happen. If the 4-legged critters have learned to take their tail and they can flip your lid off of your bucket, they'll get in there and eat your lunch. We'll make you mad. You come back and somebody done got in your lunch. Most of the time they nibbled on it, so you didn't want it anyway after they nibbled on it. All right, over here you'll see a sign that says Kettle Bottom. That is a petrified tree. Anybody been out to the petrified forest? Out west, out there, and seen all the trees laying around and all that turned to rock? Well, we got them in our coal mines. They are in the strata above our coal. So when you take the coal out, you can look up in the top, and if you see a circle of coal in that top, which is about 1/4 inch wide, that means there's a tree up in there. We call it a kettle bottom. And that coal will flake off of there, and it breaks off of that main trunk of that tree and falls out. And it don't give you any warning. It just falls out with no popping, cracking, nothing. And a lot of them was called widowmakers back in the old days, because usually that's what happened. If you got hit with one, your wife was a widow if you was married. So they done a whole lot of damage. So nowadays we recognize them, what they are. We drill 2 holes, one on each side, and put bolts up and with a strap across it. And that way up, when that thing turns loose, it hits on that strap and won't fall out and hurt nobody.
Are they made of coal or is it made
No,
of rock?
it's the tree. It turned into rock. It's solid rock. It don't have no coal. The only thing that was about it had coal was the bark. The bark turned into coal. That was on the tree. In the mines that I worked at, it was a pretty good sized mine. We had 4 different crews working all the time. So we had at least 150, 175 men underground at all times. Some mines have more than that. Some of them have up to 200 to 300 people underground.
So would you work 8-hour shifts or? was
We
it-
worked 12-hour shifts. We worked 12 hours and then got 12 off. But we worked 4 days a week. And then when we was off, we had another crew in there working 4 days. So every 4 days, you got 4 days off. And that rotated your days off so you wasn't off the same days every week.
Yeah.
I like that because I could set up appointments or go fishing or whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you wear any kind of mask or anything?
Yes. Yeah, you're not required to. They got to make it available, but you're not required to wear them. It's up to you if you want to save your lungs or not. Yes. Yep.
And if you're-
Nowadays we have what we call air helmets. They're about like a fireman's hat. Got big fan system here in the back of it, and it's got a little enclosed shield around your face, so it's blowing constantly fresh air in your face all the time.
So if you rent, and so let's say you do mine out on a mountain and you get most of the coal out, they would just transfer you to another mine somewhere? Or?
Yes, sir. Either that, you would go back in and turn another direction and mine in whatever direction they had coal left in there. Because we're going to be going out in one of the punch outs here that they punched out on this mountain.
Right.
So we're going to go out it and go back, take a ride down the mountain, back down into where we started at. That's what we call a punch out. They punched to the outside. That's where they kept them mining and the wall come closer to the coal, so they went to the outside.
Gotcha.
How much does a ton of coal fetch nowadays?
It'll go up to, this type of coal is called the met coal. It's used in steel mills and power plants because it burns real hot. It's a real good quality coal. It's a high BTU, low sulfur. It's got low dirt in it.
And what was the name?
It's a metallurgical coal, and it's called the Sewell seam here in West Virginia. It's called different names everywhere else, but it's a Sewell seam. It's metallurgical coal, and this can go up to about $700 a ton. It fluctuates between $300 to $700 a ton.
A lot more than 20 cents.
Yep. That's why they quit paying us 20 cents a ton.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We have any veterans today on here? Anybody been in service?